Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic and the return to the channel of one of my very favourite setters in the world. This puzzle on screen was, well, it's a construction by Christoph Seeliger and the Friendly Aliens is what the byline says. And that is because this is called Alien X-Sum Sudoku. And a quick cursory glance at this grid makes you think, what on earth is going on? How can every clue in a Sudoku puzzle be 1000? Well, I will explain all in a moment or two, but what I will tell you already is this is a remarkable construction indeed from the great man. And in fact, I think it was Christoph who made Mark and I realise that sometimes when we put up impossible puzzles on the channel and managed to solve them in the end, that was a thing people wanted to see. We did I solved a puzzle and we called the video something like, is this Sudoku impossible? And I remember it was a very long video, one of the first that was over an hour, and I assumed it would be immensely unpopular because that's what all of the sort of guidance on YouTube tells you about the algorithm. And in fact, it remains to this day one of the most popular videos we've ever made. It's had well over 1 million people who've watched presumably at least some of that video, which is quite a cool thing indeed. So Christoph's puzzles, they are very popular and with good reason. But before I read you the rules of Alien X-Sums, let me remind you that we have only hours to go if you want to support our Kickstarter. This is to make Cracking the Cryptic's Greatest Hits Volume 2. Oh, hang on, I better move that across there. There's an example page from it. We've cruised through so many stretch goals. Thank you to the over 5,000 of you who've supported the Kickstarter so far. We are going to make you an amazing book. And we're heading up towards stretch goals that include me reading poetry that the viewers have selected. Thank you very much, by the way, to the constructor Blobs for sending me a poem he would like to hear me read yesterday, which was about tennis. It was called Thwack by Matt Harvey. I did read it through. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Actually, I would love to try and record myself reading that poem. Although it would be, let's say, an oral dexterity challenge. Those of you who know the poem will know of what I speak. But I think the other really cool stretch goal that is in sight now is if we hit. I think we're on about 100. And what are we on at the moment? We're on 172,000. If we hit about 190,000, then we will make season 2 of the podcast, which many of you have been asking for, and that would be a lot of fun. So I hope we get to do that. If you haven't supported the Kickstarter yet, at least have a look at it. There's a link on the screen. See what you think. Now, next, over on Patreon, you've only got 4 days left, actually, to enter the monthly competition. The days are flying by, but I need to congratulate some of you who've managed to solve all of the 12 Labours of Hercules puzzles. So well done to Thomas Sylvester, Ben Verkhoven, Riley Guyot, Brad Geddes, Sumayada, I think, Dan Brooks, Brett Holter, Ashley Hunt, Lane the Pain Train Spencer, Jeremy Pronovost, I think, Caracynthia June, Maddie Capelloni, David Vance, Rob Bretveld, and Megan Swanson. All of you sent in the correct answers. Very well done indeed. And just a couple of birthdays today. Sam, you've turned 30, I believe, and I know this because your girlfriend, Dr. Chloe, wrote to us. I know, Sam, you are also a doctor, so you're a boyfriend and girlfriend of great, not great anything, but great distinction. And Chloe described you, Sam, very, very nicely. She said you were kind, caring, funny, smart, and she loves you very much. That's a pretty good birthday present, if I do say so myself. And also Alex, happy birthday to you. Your wife Rachel thought that you might like a shout out, even though you don't watch the channel yet. well, you need to get watching it. This is solving Sudoku is a surprisingly, it's a surprising and occasionally wonderful way of distracting the mind. I recommend it to you. I hope you have a great birthday. I hope you have lots of chocolate cake. And with that, let me read you The Mad Rules of Alien X Sums by Christoph Seeliger and the Friendly Aliens. Here we go. Follow normal Sudoku rules. Clues outside the grid are X sum clues. They give the sum of the first X digits, where X is the first digit from that direction. Now, those of you who are eagle-eyed will immediately say, hang on, that's impossible, because there is no way, even if you include the whole of column 5, there is a little secret that you'll know if you watch the channel. But the secret is that a whole column of a Sudoku adds up to 45. So how could it add up to 1,000? You know, even if we put a 9 there, which is saying sum the first 9 digits from this direction, we'd only get to a 45 X sum clue. Well, that is because the aliens have been naughty. So, Christoph says, some friendly aliens helped me creating the puzzle. And if you are a regular visitor to the puzzle portal, you probably already know what the problem with them is. Each alien uses his own number system with an unknown base, and I can't remember which alien wrote which clue anymore. So we have a bases puzzle here. So each of these clues, which seems to be 1,000, but is actually, well, I can tell you this, it's not in base 10, because that doesn't work, because we can't make a column of a Sudoku add up to 1,000. So we're going to have to work out what these clues could be and then somehow fill the puzzle in. What a beautiful idea. Every single clue in the puzzle is the same number. It's just remarkable. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And I suppose we should start by talking about number bases, which, I mean, we must be about the only channel on the internet that enjoys embracing number bases in theory. But let me explain what a number base is. Basically, what we need to do is to consider. So, I don't know how many of you are familiar with number bases, but if you think about how numbers work as we conventionally think about them. The units digit, we typically count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now when we get to 10, we say rather than writing 10 here, we tick over, if you like. We put a 1 in the second unit of the digit, and then we put a 0 here. And then we start counting again until we get to 9. The moment we get to 9, we know if we get to another 10, we increase this number. So that's counting in base 10, which means that if that's the number, when you get to the number below the number base, so once we hit 9 here, the next number requires us to increase this number. And then it goes on like that. So once this number gets to 9, and we tick over, then we will put a 1 in the third position, etc. Now, what on earth is going on here then? We've actually got 4 numbers, haven't we? So let's start off with the lowest number base, which is binary, which means that we're counting in, well, we increase, so binary is base 2, which means that we can put 1 here, but then if we get to the number 2 in binary would be written, whoopsie, not as 91, but as 10. So this 1 is counting the number of 2's in the answer, if you like. But that's not enough, is it? Because we've got 1,000 here, so we need to increase this number. So if we think about this from a base 10 perspective, we're on the number 2 at the moment. That would be the number 3. The number 4, we can't put 2 in here, remember? So the number 4 is represented as 100. And then we could go 5, 6, with a 0 here, 7, and now we're at 8. So in fact 100 is 8, because now in increasing this number, which is 7, by 1 more, you can see none of these numbers can increase. So we need to put in the 1 in the 4th position. So 1000 is actually the base 10 number 8. And 8 is a valid X sums clue. So some of these could be base 10 version. Well, some of these 1000s could be, if we converted them into base 10, they could be the number 8. And let's think about that. Let's imagine this was a base 10 8 clue. How would its XSUM work? Well, you could have a 2 here, and that would be saying the first 2 cells in this direction sum to 8, so that would be a 6. Or you could have a 3 here, which would be saying the first 3 cells in this direction sum to 8, which could be a 1, a 4, or a 4, 1. And you can't have 4 at the top, because if you have 4 at the top, the minimum you could put into those cells would be a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 add to 10, and 10 is greater than 8 in base 10. I hope I'm not going to have to qualify everything I say in this puzzle by thinking about bases. I probably am. But we found out that 8 is a valid conversion of a 1000. So one of the aliens might be a base 2 or a binary alien. What's base 3 called? Ternary? I'm not sure. It might be ternary. But let's see if we can construct. So then we're counting in, essentially this is counting the 3s, isn't it? So 1, 2, and then 3 with a 0 here. So 4, 5, 6, if that becomes a 0. 7, 8. Now we can't make this a 3, remember, so 9 is going to be that one. 10, 11, that's going to be 12 if we make that 0. 13, 14, and that's going to be 15. I mean, we could do this the short way, which is to say that this 1000 is going to be 27, because it's going to be sort of 3 lots of 9. But I'm doing it the slow way, which I hope will be appreciated by some of you at least. We're on 15 at the moment, aren't we? 16, 17. We can't make this 18 because we can't make this 3. So that's 18 with zeros everywhere. And so you can see this is sort of keeping track of the 9s, isn't it? So as we come up to 27, so we're on 18 at the moment, could we put 300 to represent 27? Well, no, because we're not allowed to use the digit 3 in ternary. So the only way of representing 27 is like that. So I didn't do it completely longhand, but hopefully that was fairly clear. Now, 27 is much bigger than 8. So that means that, 27 is obviously a valid XSUMs clue. 27 can't be a 3 clue though, because then these 2 cells would have to add up to 24. 4, these 3 cells would have to add up to 23, so that could work. 4 works as a valid clue. That means 5 will work, 6 will work, 7 will not work as a valid XSUMs clue for 27, and that is because the triangular number for 7 is 28, i.e. what is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7. If you add those up, you'll get 28, which is more than 27, and therefore invalid. Right, so we've now learnt that 1000 is either 8 or 27 in base 10. And actually, I can see now that this is not going to be base 4. I have no idea what base 4 is called. Don't know, sorry. Someone will tell me in the comments. Someone more erudite than me. But how could it be, if we convert 1000 or 1000 from base 4 to base 10, then we know that this digit is counting the 16s, don't we? Because this is counting the 4s, so this is going to count the 16s, and that's going to count the 64ths. Now, one lot of 64 is far too high for a complete column of a sudoku. So in fact, this is rather cool. All of these clues are either 8s or 27s. Which is a remarkable thing in and of itself. This is the sort of elegance, I think, that you just get from the very top tier of setters. Because it's all very well. I don't know how you come up with ideas like this. You must notice that I mean, why would you think about 1000 having this, you know, these two possible values in base 10, and then think it's possible to make an X-sum Sudoku out of just those 2 digits, and then do it? Oh, hang on, I can get 3 digits. I can get 3 digits in this puzzle. There are 3 given digits, because these are 1000 clues. Well, I'm not going to write 27 into any of those cells, so they're all 8s. Bingo! Look, we're off to the races. But yeah, I got distracted by my brain. But if I bring my brain back to the question in hand, it's like, how do you come up with this, Christoph? It really is. It's just a remarkable idea. That can't be a 3 now. Because remember, 3 has to have a 1-4 pair underneath it in order to add up to 8. Because okay, right. So if we think about our X-sum possibilities now, maybe I'll do it in the horizontal plane just because it's maybe easier to say. If this 1000 clue is representing the digit 8 in base 10, then this digit is a 2 or a 3. But if it's representing a 27 clue in base 10, then this is a 4, 5 or a 6, and there's no overlap between those possibilities. So it's not possible to have the same digit at the start of an X-sums clue for either version of the 8 or the 27. Right. So that digit can't be 2 or 3. Because if this was 2, we know that 2 must be relating to an 8 X-sums clue, which would require double 6, because this 1000 in this direction requires the first 2 cells from this direction to add up to 8. They would have to be 2 and 6, and from this direction it would also be 2 and 6, and that would put 2 6s in this box. And the same is true of 3, because that's going to need a 1-4 pair on both sides of it. So this clue here, and we're probably going to have colouring to indicate this, I'm going to make that green to tell me that this clue, not only is it 4, 5 or 6, it's a 27 clue in both directions. And it's going to be of the same size, obviously, because if that's a 4... Oh, can that not be a 4 then? Oh, I'll tell you what, it actually can't be a 4, because there's an 8 in its row. So if we were to put a 4 here, these squares have to be 9, 8 and 6, because they must add up to 23, and they can't use the 8. So that's not a 4. This is 5 or 6 now. So if this is... Well, let's just check 6 first. If that's 6, it's adding all of those cells together. And these would be 27. 27 and 8 is 35. Those would add up to 10, which would have to be 1, 9 or 3, 7, because it couldn't use an even digit. Okay, that's maybe not as good as I was hoping. If this is a 5, those add to 27, so then these 3 would add up to 10 without using 5. So they couldn't be 2, 3, 5, so they'd have to have a 1 in them. Oh, for goodness sakes. Right. Well, I can tell you these cells do have a 1 in them. Because you can't have 1 as not only can you not have 1 ever in these cells, because 1 is a valid X-sums clue, but only for the digit 1. And none of these clues is a 1 X-sums clue. They're all 1000 X-sums clues, which means they're either 8s or 27s. So you can't put 1 in any of those. But look, there are actually 5 of those. There are 5 1000s looking north from the bottom of the grid. And there are only 5 different X-sums possible starting digits, because we worked out it was 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So this is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quadruple. These squares are 1, 7 and 9 by Sudoku. And Okay, so this is a 6. This is gorgeous. It's not difficult. It's just gorgeous. How? Right, the reason this can't be a 5 is we'd be adding those 5 digits up. And those 5 digits add up to 20. And the reason I know they add up to 20 without actually doing the maths is I can see that it's the triangular number for 6, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, which I know is 21, not including the 1, so that's how they're 20. So if they're 20, so if this was a 5, we'd be adding those cells up, the purple cells up, we'd only get 20, which is not a valid 1000 clue. So that means we must be adding all of those cells up. That must be a 7, therefore. That must be a 6 in order to make the maths work. None of these are 6. These are not 7. And we are off to the races. So now we've got a 6 going north up here, which probably has some implication for that cell. I'm just going to come back down here though, and let me just think about these cells for a moment or two. Yeah, neither of these cells now can be a 2, because we know that a 2 clue needs a 6 above it in order to add up to 8, and we can't put 6 in those cells. So these are not 2, which means there's a 2 in one of these cells, there's a 6 in one of these cells, and there's a 6 over here out of absolutely nowhere. Now, can we do any better than that? You've got to be a bit careful with the 3 as well, because whichever one of these is the 3 is going to have a 1-4 pair above it. So the 3 and the 4, we couldn't, for example, so in other words, there's a 5 in one of those 2 cells. That's a simple way of looking at that. Because if we did try and make this a 3-4 pair, what would we put above the 3 to make it add up to 8? Well, 1 and 4, and we get 2 4s in the box. So one of those must be a 5, which means these are not 5. So this is from 2, 3, and 4. Now if we put the 2 and the 3 in the same box, we would have a 6 in one of these and a 1, 4 in the other. So we'd have something like 3, 1, 4, 2, 6. Okay, that might not be impossible. If we have the 4 in one of these, we know 4 has to go with 6, 8, 9. So, okay, that's weird. So there is a 6 in one of those cells, which is a bit mental. And that's because one of these is a 4. Let's just make it this cell, just for the sake of exposition. These 3 cells have to add to 23 now, which means they have to be 6, 8, and 9. That's the only way of getting to 23 with 3 different numbers. But the 6 couldn't go in those cells. But if this was a 4, then those 3 would have to add up to 23, and one of those would have to be a 6, but the 6 is not available in this box because the 6 is in this box is hypothecated for the 2. Wherever the 2 lives, there's a 6 above it. So that means that the 6 relating to the 4 clue is always going to be pushed out of boxes 7 and 8 and is going to be in one of those cells. So I don't really know how to pencil mark. I mean, this is a dreadful pencil mark because I'm basically saying one of those 4 cells has to be a 6. And that's why I've highlighted it in blue as well, to make me think about that if I ever do any deduction based off those pencil marks. Okay, but can we improve on this any more? So 5 in one of these. 5 feels the least restricted in a way, because then you're just saying that 5 cells add up to 27. And I don't think there's any particular need to have any particular number in that 4 cell, in the additional 4 cell sequence. You're saying the extra 4 cell sequence above the 5 would add up to 22, which means it could easily have a 1, it could easily have a 9, so that there's no sort of a high or low restriction. So maybe it's this cell then interacting with this digit. So we know that. No, right. It's this, well, I don't know if it's interacting with this digit, but this is another of these clues that has a 1000 in both directions. So again, this can't be, it's not possible for either of these 1000s to be an 8 clue. Because if one of them is an 8 clue, they both have to be an 8 clue, because we know 8 is the only valid XSUM clue associated with 2s and 3s, which this would then have to be. And then you get the same configuration. If that's a 2, you've got to put double 6 here. If it's a 3, you've got to put 1s, 4s in both of those cells. So this square is a 4, 5 or a 6, and therefore I'm going to make it green, which is the correct colour. It's not 6 by the power of Sudoku. So it's 4 or 5, which means there is an overlap in the column. Okay. I was about to go off on one about the fact there was an overlap in the column, but actually I now know what the overlap is, don't I? Because if that's 4, we know it's got to have 6, 8, 9 beneath it, which it can't. So that's 5. And if it's 5, the overlap is those cells versus those cells. So these two cells have to add up to, well, that's 27, that's 27, which is 54. By the secret, the whole column adds up to 45. So the only way of correcting the count, the overlap, if you like, must be 9 in order to make sure that the column adds up properly. So these two cells add up to 9, and they're not 4, 5, and they're not 3, 6. So those cells are either 2, 7 or 1, 8, which, no, doesn't do anything there. These are 9, that's 5, that's 14, this is 27, so these add up to 13. Right, so, yeah, that's beautiful. This is a 4-9 pair, because it can't, there's 3 ways of making 13 in 2 cells. 5, 8, that's not available, 6, 7 is not available, so that's 4, 9. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to reduce the possibilities for this domino. So what digits must we have? We must have a 3 down here in this little triple. I think that's the only digit we definitely know is in this triple. It would obviously be absolutely mighty if we could get it into these cells. That would be a 4-5 pair. This would be a 2-3 pair. Can we do anything with this one? This is adding up to, well, those add up to 13. We know we're adding those cells up. That's a terrible choice of colour, sorry, let's go grey. So these 3 cells add up to 14, which I think has an awful lot of options. Again, sort of doing the same sort of trick. Can you put a 1 in there? Absolutely. Can you put a 9 in there? Absolutely. So I don't feel there's a massive restriction there. So probably, well, it's either going to be Sudoku, which I'm certainly not ruling out, or it's going to be this cell, this cell, this cell, this cell, or this cell, none of which I've actually looked at yet. Do any of the, I can see that one's not a 4 because it's got, oh no, it can be 4, it's got 8. It's meant to have 8 if it's got a 4. Okay, what we're now going to find is that this will be a 4, and that will make me look like an absolute prize Charlie. How can my brain do that? How can my brain see a 4 there, see this 8, and say, well, that 8 can't be part of that 4, therefore this is not possible to be 4, 6, 8, 9. I do not know. It is a mystery. All right, I'm going to say that one can't be a 4 then. In fact, that can't be a 3. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! What is that one? It's not 2. It's not 3, and it's not 4, and it's not 6. Good grief! Right, that's 5. is what we're meant to do now. 2, so let's just go through why none of these options work. If this is 2, we know it's this 1000 clue is an 8 clue, which needs a 6 here. But we can't have one apparently, so it's not 2. If it's 3, this has to be a 1-4 pair. That's ruled out, so it's not 3. If it's 4, these squares have to be 6, 8 and 9. And you can see that with the 8, 9 here, this would have to be a Schrödinger cell. Or in fact, the other way of seeing it is you just can't put 6 in the string. So that's the simpler way. So we're down to 5 or 6. Well, it's looking at a 6 apparently, which is given by the 2 clue, which we know must be in one of those 4 cells, but specifically one of these 2 cells. So that's going to rule out that being a 6. So that is a 5. Now, that's summing those digits, obviously. So 5 by Sudoku is in one of those 3 positions. These add up to 22. That's weird. I don't actually see how to use that. There might be something we can do, but I don't see how to do it. What about that one then? So that one definitely can't be 3. So let's put in the options here. It can't be 3 because it needs a 1 if it's a 3. It can be 2 because it could have a 6 here. 4 is not possible because if it's 4, I need one of these to be an 8 or a 9, and neither can be. So this one is just 2 or 6. Right, that's a little bit interesting because if it's 2, there's a 6 here, and if it's 6, there's a 6 here. So there is never a 6 there. So one of these is a 6 now. So that one, this can't be under any pressure, I don't think. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not 5, like the power of Sudoku. Can that one be 4? I think so, actually. I think it can be. If it's 2, that's a 6. And that would mean there would be a 6 in one of those. If it's 3, this would be a 1-4 pair. Okay, sorry, I don't think there's much doing there. That one is, I think that's also got a lot of options. 2, 3, 4 or 6. Now, let me think about this. Can we do any better than that? If that's 4, this would have to be a 6, 9 pair, and that would give me a 1 and a 2 down here. That feels like it's sort of quite restricted. Right, now we're getting stuck. If that's 6, those cells sum to 27. So these cells would have to sum up to 18 by the secret. So that's a 5. So these would have to add up to 13 by the secret. That doesn't work. Right, so that's not 6. Because remember the column sums to 45. Those would sum to 27. And there's no way I think of getting those to add to 18. So that's not 6. If it's, and it's not 3. It's not 3 because that would need a 1-4 pair, and 8 is not equal to 1 or 4. So this one is 2 or 4. Oh, of course. Oh, it's obvious. Oh, dearie me. I'm so sorry. It can't be 2 because that's going to put 6 there, and that's going to lead to that cell having no value at all. So that is 4. So those have got to be a 6, 9 pair. That's massive because now that's not 6. And that is 2, which means that's 6 by the power of Grayskull. And also Sudoku. That's a 1, that's a 9. These squares are 3, 4 and 7 by Sudoku. This square is now a 3, exactly. That's a 7. 3 needs a 1-4 pair. And all of a sudden the puzzle is yielding some secrets. That's not a 1. So that's not, what do we need those to add up to? 9, wasn't it? So if that's not a 1, that's not an 8. So this has been reduced a little bit. I've abandoned a bit my policy of labelling the colour of the first cell, haven't I? In fact, I've totally abandoned it. That was a bit of a waste of time. So which clues have I actually used now? I have used this one. Maybe that's a better thing to do. To actually label which clues have I used. Have I really used this 6? I've certainly used it horizontally. Have I used it vertically? I think I have with this overlap. So that one's done. I'll give it a quick circle to say done. I don't like the green. I'll make it a black circle. That's done. These clues are sort of, I've thought about them but haven't done them. That clue is done. I've worked out what it is. That clue's done. That clue's done. That clue's done. This clue is not done. So maybe that gets an X to indicate that needs thinking about. This 5 clue, I think I thought about that. That's sort of an iffy one. I don't know. Have I got an iffy label? No. I'll leave that one open. Or maybe I'll give it an X. I don't think I've fully thought through that one. So, okay, I think all of those at the bottom are a bit like the X. So I think this is the clue I want to look at. I'm going to think about this clue. And the options for this clue are Legion. Although not 4 and 5, I suppose. So this is 2, 3, or 6. Well, obviously, if it's 2 or 3, that's not an 8. If it's 6, I've got to think about overlaps then and underlaps. If that's 6, it's adding those 6 cells up to 27. So how could that work? Well, it just doesn't work, actually. That's really weird. Okay, if that's 6, let's do this slowly. If that's 6, this cannot be 4. And the reason it can't be 4 is, remember, 4 is associated with a 6, 8, 9 triple to get to 27. So if this is 6, this is 2 or 3, which means we're dealing with a situation where either, if this is a 3, then we're saying those 6 cells sum to 27, and those 3 cells sum to 8, which would mean the whole column sums to 27 plus 8, which is 35. That's not going to work. So, but if this is 2, we get a similar problem, in the sense that now those cells sum up to 35, and that cell has to add up to a 10, and that doesn't work. You can't put 10 into that cell. So actually, rather strangely, I think this is not a 6. So this is a 2 or a 3, which means that's not an 8. So this is either, this cell here is either a 6 if this is a 2, or if this is a 3, it's a 1 or a 4. What does that do? You may well ask. Okay, now it's getting stressful because I don't understand how I'm meant to... Is there something I'm meant to deduce from this? Yeah, I can actually deduce something from this. That is not a 4 again. Because if that's a 4, in fact, yeah, it's a similar argument to when that had 6 as an opportunity as well. If I'd thought harder about this cell, you can see this cell can never be a 4 opposite a 2 or a 3, or even a 6. Because if it's a 4, we know that this is a 6, 8, 9 triple, which means I'm not allowed to use 4 or 6 with this X sum clue. But if that's a 2, I need a 6, and if it's a 3, I need a 4. So it just doesn't work. So in fact, we've now got a 2-3 pair in this column, which means that can't be a 6, because one of these has to be a 6, so that gets removed from my blue set. So that digit is the same as that digit. That's a 1, 4 or a 6. And one of these cells has to contain a 1 or a 4. Right, so the middle 3 cells of this column have to be from the other digits. There's sort of a floating 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 triple in those 6 cells. So not triple, quintuple. So 5 of those 6 cells are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, which means the other digits, which are 5, 7 and 8, 5, 7, 8 and 9, must be in those cells. That's not 7. That is the world's most useless deduction. It's done nothing. One of these 2 cells is a 5, 7, 8 or 9. Ah, bobbins. Christoph and your friendly aliens, what are you up to? What's this clue doing now? We've got 5 here, 8 here, 13. These have to add up to 14. So those have to be at least 11. So if that's a 2, these have to add up to 12 without being 4, 8 or 5, 7. So they'd be 3, 9. But if that's a 3, these have to add up to 11. 16 is 11, and that's going to be not 3, 8, not 4, 7, not 5, 6. Right, so there's always a 9 in this string. Have I always known that? Oh, I can get the 9. Oh, for goodness sake. Look, there's a 9. This is, in fact, one way to think about this is a 2, 3, 9 triple. Because if this is 2, I need a 3, 9 pair. If it's 3, I need a 2, 9 pair. And the 9 can never go there, so the 9 has to go in that little cell. Pregnant pause while I try and work out what that means. And fail miserably. I don't know what that means. Right, those squares are 1, 6 and 7 by sudoku. That's not a 7. That's not a 6. That seems to have all sorts of optionage available to it. So, right, I feel like that cell is somehow impinged upon then. Because if that's 3, I need a 1 there, so that becomes a 6. If that's 2, that becomes a 6, and that makes this a 1. So, that must do something. What's that doing? Sorry, I'm not seeing that either. My brain has shut down. It's abandoned me. Intelligence don't live here no more. Oh dear. Right. So what does this mean? Oh no, okay, it does mean that digit now can't be a 4. Oh, that's beautiful. Right, I get 2, 3 pair at the bottom. Oh, that's it. That's it. This little 9 has given me something. Because now if that's a 4, remember you need 6, 8 and 9. So that's not 4, so that's a 2, 3 pair. Which means this is a 4, 5 pair. Look, let's get rid of the corner pencil marks and see if we can work out what that means. That's not a 4. That would need an 8 above it. So this is the 4. This is the 5. This is now 6, 8, 9, which we know where the 6 goes. So finally my blue highlighting pays off. Wow, that was a lengthy wait for the payoff there. There's a 6 over here by sudoku. This is an 8, 9 pair because we need those to add up to 27. So these squares are 1, 2, 3 and 7 by the power of sudoku. These are not 2. Oh, come on. That must do something. 8 is in one of those cells. Have we got some sort of restriction on this now? This is either 1, 8 or 2, 7. Is that? No. I don't think that is doing anything there. I've got 2 or 3 here. So this square is 1, 4 or 6. It has the same property as this one. Now, I don't quite see how to do that either. So which clue is it I've not used? It must be... Is it this one? Oh, in this row, where does the other 8 or 9 go? And the answer is there. So maybe it is this clue. So this clue is now... I don't know, I feel like there's an awful lot of options along here. These add up to 22. 22, 16. No, I don't like the look of that. I think that's got multiple ways of working. What else is going on along here then? Which clues have I not focused on? This is now done. That doesn't seem to give me this digit. 4. Oh, 4, look, is in one of those cells by the power of sudoku. As is 9. It's going to be sudoku that's going to get me out of trouble here. 4s and 9s. 5s are in these 2 cells, which is something I've only just appreciated. Oh, so this X sums clue. That can't have 8 in it, or 6. Woo! Okay, I'm going to look at that one. So those cells add up to... Well, these cells add up to 22, but I'm not allowed to use 8 and I'm not allowed to use 6. Surely I have to use 9. What's the maximum I could make these cells be? I could have 9, I could have 7, I could have 9, 7, 4, 3. That's the most. 9, 7, 4 and 3 is 23. And that would make all the orange squares add up to 28. Right, so this is restricted. So I can reduce one of those digits by 1. So it's got to be 9, 7, 4, 2. Which is 9, 7, 4, 2. Yes, okay, so the 4 and the 9, I need them for this orange total. So that now is a 4-9 pair. Whoops. I want to put 4 and 9 in here. Let me do that. 4 and 9. These squares are 2 and 7 then to make the maths work. Which means those squares are not 2 and 7. So that's not 7. That's not 7 and not 2. So this is a 1-3 pair. Now that gives me these digits now, which are not a 1-8 pair. So this is 2, 7, and that's the 8 in the column. And if that's the 8 in the column, that seems to be the 8 in box 6. Neither of these squares is allowed to be 8 anymore. And, right, what are those digits then? They're 1, 3 and 5 by Sudoku, and that's not 5, and that's not 1 or 3. So that is 5, which means I've now got a 1-3 pair in row 4. And a 1-3 pair, sort of floating 1-3 pair in box 6. So this must be a 1-3 pair. Somehow that's not resolved. Oh, hang on. Where does 4 go in this row? Because it's not in those cells. It doesn't seem to be able to be in those cells. So that's 4. That's 9. In fact, the way to do that was rather simpler is to say, look, there's a 4 in one of those. So that had to not be 4. But such is my brain. That's the way it works. Right, that's not 5 either. So this is down to 7 or 8. And okay. And we might have to do one of these audits of the clues we've not used again. What about this column? 1, 3 and 6 have got to go into these squares. 1, 3, 6. Can we do this somehow? We could, or maybe this row, 2, 5 and 9 into these squares, 2, 5 and 9. That's not 9, so we've got, I don't know what we've got. I don't know what we've got. It still doesn't want to tell me its secrets, does it? You naughty puzzle. And I feel like we've used up an awful lot of our clues now. Can we get which of these is 2, which of these is 3? Is that available somehow? The 2 has to partner up with the 6, the 3 with the 1 and the 4. I don't see how to do that. This 2, actually, that's doing something. That's 2, that's 7. So that's not 7. Is that doing anything? It means there is a 7 in my red total now. Right, so I've got 12 in my red total for definite, and I've got that digit, which is quite big. So if that's 8, then I've got 20, and I need 2 more cells adding up to 7. That works. That could be 4, and one of those could be 3. And if this is 9, I've got 21 in 3 cells. Let's just say it's those 3. And I need these 2 cells to add up to 6. And that doesn't work. Right, okay, this square, I believe this square is an 8. Because if it's a 9, I need the spare 2 cells in this run to add up to 6. And I can't do 1, 5, I'd repeat the 5. So that's 8. And if that's 8, that's 8, that's 9. Has this done it? That's going to give me some... Yes, it gives me this digit. Because this digit needs to be the counterpart of 3 to get me my extra 7. So that becomes a 4. That becomes a 4. This becomes a 3, 7. That digit now is... what is it? How is that not just given to me? I think it is given to me. I just can't see. The 3, 7 resolves this. So that becomes a 6. Now we know 6 is above a 2. So that's a 2. That's a 3. That's a 1 to make that x sum add up. Now that means we've got 2 at the top, which must go with 6, which means that's a 3. That's a 1 by Sudoku. That's a 7. That's a 6. Good grief. Oh, the 7 and the 3 go in. That's a 4. That's a 1. So I need 1, 2 and 5 in this column. 1, 2 and 5. I need... What about those squares? They are 5 and 9, and I've got a 9 here. So that's a 9. That's a 5. So one of these 2 cells is a 9 in the middle box. And now we know that one is the 5, 7. So that's got to be 5, 7 or 9. And it's not 9. Because that we knew that they were the other digits in column 5. And I realised I could just get that by Sudoku now. But the way I'd stored it in my mental mapping was, as usual, perverse. Right. So now have we actually done... That 6 is useful. That's given me a 9 here. That gives me a 6 here. So that gives me a 9 here and a 4 here. So now I've got 4 in one of those 2 cells by Sudoku. I've got a 3 here. So this has become a 1, 6 pair, which is resolved, yes. 6 and 1 go in. That's got to be the 1 in column 8. So those 2 squares are 2 and something. 2 and 7. Bar humbug, it's not resolved. Right, I'm going to pencil mark it in though. 2, 7 go here. These squares need to have a 3 involved in them. Is that resolved? 2, 3 and 5. Apparently not. That's got to be 2, 5 or 9. There's probably an x sums clue that's glaring at me here that I haven't used yet. Oh, where does 1 go? In this box. it goes there. 1 and 3 go into the grid. So 3 is in one of those two positions. I don't quite know where I'm meant to look here to finish this with some sort of aplomb. Let's have a look at this row. Where is the 6 in row 5? I think it's got to be there. So this square is a 7 or an 8 only. It can't be a 2. So that must be the 2. That seems to be right, doesn't it? Just sort of a weird version of Sudoku we're doing there to make that work. That's given me a 5-9 pair here, which makes this 7. Makes that 8, that's 7. So now those two squares have to be 4 and 2, which is resolved. So that's 2, that's 4, that becomes 4. This column needs 3 and 8. Well, the only place the 8 can go is there. So 8 and 3 go into the grid. That's a 3 by Sudoku. That's 7. It's done, isn't it? 7, 2, 5, 2, 5 here, 5 here, 9 here, 9 there, 2 there. And if we've not made a ricket, that's a 5. Looks good, actually. What a brilliant puzzle. Let's click tick. Yay! Not that easy, but also not that hard. It's just one plain old wonderful is what it is. To make an X-sums puzzle out of just the clue 1000 with the specification you can change the base of it if you want is just, I mean, it's just perfection. It's elegance and panache personified. And it solves really nicely. I love the fact I could get that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quintuple along the bottom row. I like things like thinking about this overlap in this column. And there were lots of surprises, like, you know, where you have 1,000 clue at a junction, it had to be a 27. And there was something weird in those two cells, wasn't there? You couldn't have a 4 opposite a 2 or a 3, or a 6, in fact. So there are probably things, if you studied this for long enough, that you could really get quick at. But yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful Sudoku puzzle. And maybe this one will be very popular as well. We shall see. But let me know in the comments how you got on with it. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.